We're in Perek Zion. We're going to have to start over from Perek Zion, but hopefully we'll get a little bit of momentum here. So again, you remember, just to review quickly, that's basically what we'll do tonight, is a little bit of a review. He's basically talking about Klipas Noiga. And the idea, Klipas Noiga basically means that in this world, there's a level of Shalosh Klipas Tameus, that those means things that are so, they're covered over, they're shelled over in a way that they're inaccessible to us. Everything has Kedusha in it, everything has the Rebbeinu Shalom in it. It can't exist without the Rebbeinu Shalom. But the light of the Rebbeinu Shalom, whatever it is so covered over, it's inaccessible to us, and we're not. Super exceptions. We may have mentioned before about the Yifas Toyer is where the Ohr HaChaim discusses it. It's like an exception where we're able to access it. But otherwise it remains inaccessible to us. Those Shalosh Kippos, the Shalosh Kippos of Tameos. But most of the world, is what we call Klipas Noiga, which is something that can be accessible, but it kind of pivots, and it can be used one way, it can be used the other way. It says the Nefesh HaBahamis in Yisrael. Mitzad Klipa HaMeluveshes B'dam Ha'adam. Mitzad the Klipa that's meluvesh in his blood. That's what he always refers to as B'dam, ki Adam hu HaNefesh is the Nefesh HaBahami. It's not the Nefesh Eloki, it's the Nefesh HaBahami. Unefashos Behemos, and also the souls of animals, chayos, oifes, dogim, or anything that's tahar mutter b'achila. The fact that it's mutter b'achila isn't just pumped. It's it's good food, therefore you eat it. The heter b'achila means that the klipa in it is something that's accessible. It's klipas noiga. It's accessible to us, but it depends how we use it. Do we use it properly or not? Masha'en came behemus hatmeus are behemus tmeus because the ruach or the Rebbeinu Shalom that's in them is cut off from us. We can't get to it. And therefore, that's why it is asur b'achila. And the kiyum v'chayos kol adoim v'chol tmeach, that which gives life force to anything that's doimim, anything that's tmeach, plants, rocks, anything like that. Anything that's mutter b'achila v'chekiyos kol ma'aseh yu machshav v'nyolim ha'azeh. That which gives the life force to any ma'aseh, any act, any thought, any words that have to do with olam hazeh, that aren't iser. They have nothing to do with mitzvahs loisaseh or mitzvahs aseh. Rak she'enu l'shem shemayim, but they're not mitzvahs l'shem shemayim. They're purely physical needs, ritzon haguf, things you need for your body, keeping it alive. Anything that you do, your kavanah is not purely l'shem shemayim, to be oved Hashem b'gufay. So these things are not any better than the nefesh achunas of Bahamis Ma'atzma. Than the source where they come from, which is a klipas noiga. Essentially, what he's saying is that when you use things in this world and you don't use them l'shem shemayim, you just use them for mundane things, their life force remains mundane. It remains just like an animal's life force. It gets its hashpa, it gets its life force at that point from what we call sitra achar. Again, sitra achar is anything that's not direct Rebbeinu Shalom. Anything that's the other side of the Rebbeinu Shalom. So when you use things not l'shem shemayim, even though it's completely mutter, there's nothing wrong with it per se, but its life force now is not drawing directly from the Rebbeinu Shalom because it's not being used for that purpose. This life force is something that is mutzas ben shalosh klipas hatmeas legamri. It's pivoting. It's in between the shalosh klipas hatmeas ubein bechina masajregas hakedusha, between kedusha, and sometimes l'chein pa'al mishin nechlos v'shalosh klipas hatmeas. Sometimes it's included with that. Upal mishin nechlos v'alos bechina madrega kedusha. Sometimes we can be oilet to madrega of kedusha. The hainuk shatoyev hamurvo, when the good that is mixed in it, nisbar mehara becomes pulled out from the bad. V'goyver v'oyle v'nichlo b'kedusha, and now it becomes nichlo into kedusha. Kegoyin derech mashal. If you eat bisra shmeina, you eat delicious meat. V'shoyse yayin nevushim, you have good wine. In order to be marchiv daitul Hashem l'taros, in order to create our chavas adas, that now you can for Hashem and for His Torah. The Amar like Rava said, chamr v'reicha, that wine and smell give him our chavas adas. Or b'shul k'dei l'kayim mitzvah sonik Shabbos v'yontif, in order to kayim the mitzvah sonik Shabbos v'yontif. Therefore, what you did is you pulled out the life force of the basar yayid. That's coming from klipas noiga, and you were mila it. You elevated it to Hashem like any oil or carbon. Or if you say a milsa dechusa, you say a joke in order to be misameach people, same thing. But somebody who's bizarrely basiv v'sarv'yayin, just to be malas tavis nav gufa v'navshara b'hamis, just to fill the desire of your nefesh abahamis, who bechinas yisayid hamayim, That comes from Mayan, that's the taiva, okay? We'll leave that for now. You have now, you've degraded, you've brought it down, the life force of the basar yayin shebekiru. And v'nechol fisha b'ragamer shebeshos klipos atveos. And for that time that you're using it, now the life force of this thing has now been sunk into the lower dargas of the klipos atveos. The gufa nasam levush, and your body now becomes a levush for those klipas atameas. Umerkava lefisha adasher yoshav adav yaksav avodah Hashem, until you go back to doing avodah Hashem l'terasim. Kilefi, just a couple more lines there. Kilefisha basar heter v'yayin kosher. Since it's basar that's heter and it's yayin that's kosher, you're able to be oilet b'shuval avodah Hashem. As long as you go back to avodah Hashem and you start using it for avodah Hashem, you now can elevate that back. Meaning, for that time. Let's say you ate it and you really enjoyed it, and it was totally taiva. So at that moment you brought it down, but then you go back and then you really learn a good sugya based on the drink you just had. So now you can be oiled back. Since it was kosher or wine, it can go back and forth. That's the idea here, is that things that are mutter can be going back and forth, and you can bring it back in. As opposed to, who's going to say in the hemshech, is that things shall isser, you can't just bring back up. Unless you do a special thing called Tshuva Me'ava, which is going to discuss. But things that are Isser, when you connect to that, it's stuck, and you're stuck with that. And you're never going to be able to elevate that back into a Malkum of Kedusha. But Basar Heter can go back and forth, and can go up and down, and you can be enjoying it, L'Shem Taivas Nafsha, 1 second, and a minute later be using it for Dover Sheba Kedusha, and it'll go back and forth and have some sort of mix in it of life force that's both from the lower levels and from the upper levels. Okay, hold it here. It's good to get back into it. So I guess we'll get a few weeks, and then we'll have a break again, and then that's how it goes. Tuesday, Pesach?